Now, I think that what it seems like is going on with this whole situation is when you first hear the reports about Richie Incognito apparently using racial slurs and bullying left tackle. Now, to be clear, people do not know who Incognito and John Martin are. They are the starting left side of the Miami Dolphins offensive line. Cognito is the left guard, while Jonathan Martin was starting left tackle. Martin recently just lost his job, though. He was demoted, moved over to the right side, I believe, because the Dolphins made a trade for Bryant McKinney so he could be the left tackle. But when you hear this report originally and the voicemail that Richie Incognito left, it was a disgusting voicemail. I'll say that. I heard the voicemail. It was terrible what he said. But when you hear what some of these players on the Dolphins today are saying, Mike Wallace, Ryan Tannehill, Mike Pouncey, plenty of other Dolphins players, they seem to have Richie Incognito's back. And this is really strange because when these reports break out, I'm shell shocked a little bit because it just sounded like what this guy was doing was just he was being a terrible person. But these Miami Dolphins players saying this he's not racist, and then Ryan Tannehill said today that in an interview that if you would ask Jonathan Martin a week ago who his best friend on the team was, he would have said Richie Incognito. Apparently, Richie Incognito was the one guy on the team who always had Martin's back, always stood up for Martin on the coaches. So they're apparently really shocked by this. And when you hear this, this makes me question what really is going on in Miami, and Martin's intentions. Apparently, Martin checked himself into a hospital today to. I don't know what exactly for, but he checked himself in. I guess emotional distress, I believe it was actually. So the situation in Miami is very. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not a vocabulary wizard by any chance, but it's very strange what's going on because for a guy who's saying that many bad things, and the way that the teammates have his back and are supporting him and are saying good things about him still, this is it's shocking me. So I don't know what to make of the situation anymore. They're gonna have to, I think, release details. The Dolphins. So obviously, it's a big controversy in Miami. I said last night I don't think Incognito will get another job ever in the NFL, and he will eventually be cut. But after hearing all this today, I'm like, whoa. So he doesn't have a great reputation. He always had a reputation as a dirty player, but never as a dirty person until what's broke out recently. So I think we should all wait to hear more on the situation before we jump into conclusions. So that does that. But anyway, other than football, other than things in what's going on in football, it seems like all we're doing is starting off this day with football. So I'll keep at it. It's an interesting slate of games this week. No real big rivalry games when I look at the schedule that really stick out to me. It's just like, wow, like that's a must-watch game. Um, you know, Dallas and New Orleans on Sunday night I think is the best game. Denver San Diego is another intriguing game, but nothing like I think stands out. This is well you have to watch. Next week's games are that'll be a different story though because we will have Kansas City, who will be undefeated because they are on a bye week, going to Denver, play Denver. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. Next week though, it's not this week's game. So I'll get right into it with my NFL games. Tomorrow night, the Washington Redskins travel to Minnesota, and in a battle of, like, I'd say two disappointing teams right now between Washington and Minnesota. These were two playoff teams last year. Minnesota has looked far worse this year than Washington has, though. Washington has played very well of late. They were, at one point in the third quarter, up by 2 touchdowns against the Denver Broncos, when Peyton Manning went, yeah, better than Peyton Manning the way he's usually been playing this year. So they did phenomenal. Denver in that fourth quarter, which ruined the Redskins' chances of an upset. So, but the Redskins have been playing well of late, even in the loss to Denver. Even though on paper, on the scoreboard, they got killed. They played Denver very well, honestly, when you watch the whole game. So, this game, I just like Washington. They're going in the right direction. I think like I said last night, if you want to go, if you're going on team with the team that's been playing best as of late in the NFC East, the team that's been playing the best as of late is the Washington Redskins. So. I like the way that the direction that they're going in. They've got a new weapon in Jordan Reed, who's been playing very well. Fantasy team right there, and Alfred Morris has been really picking up his slack and is looking like the Alfred Morris of last year. So this would be a totally different team if RG3 had a healthy leg. But he says that he's doing better. But RG3, I don't believe a word he says. I don't believe a word Shanahan says. So Until RG3 starts playing like the way he did last year, I don't believe a word he says until he's completely he's played like he did last year. So I don't believe he's fully healthy at all. So, but that being said, though, Washington has been playing better as of late, and I like Washington in this game, on the Thursday night primetime game against Minnesota. I don't really see Minnesota doing a lot. I mean, their offense is definitely better under Christian Ponder, so that is definitely a good sign for Minnesota. They're definitely better under Christian Ponder than Josh Freeman or Matt Castle. But Ponder has, since he's been in, they've actually put up points. They had Dallas last week, and Tony Romo actually didn't choke in the clutch, and Tony Romo took his team to a last-second victory. So props Tony Romo there. But I think Washington is, like as I said, has been playing very well as of late, so that's why I'm picking Washington. All right, other Sunday games. Atlanta hosts the Seattle Seahawks, who have not looked very good in the last two games. My partner last night, I got in a large argument about Seattle. He dropped Seattle all the way to 9 in his power rankings, which I think is completely ridiculous because Seattle has won their last two games. Granted, they haven't looked good in them, but they've won their last two games nonetheless. They found ways to win. Atlanta has been a huge disappointment this year. They don't have Julio Jones. There's not a guarantee that Roddy White will play this week. And with Seattle already having Richard Sherman, who I said, in my opinion, has midseason awards, has been the best defensive player and should win Defensive Player of the Year. So I'm picking Seattle in this game. Atlanta just hasn't looked good this year. They're a different team than they have been the past few years. They're not. They just seem to be out of sync. I think this is a good test for them, maybe moving forward. If they can play with Seattle, maybe it'll give them some confidence moving forward. But Seattle right now is, I think, the best team in the NFC. And they seem to be, even though without their offensive tackles, Atlanta has no pass rush. See, St. Louis has a very good pass rush, so they gave Seattle a hard time. And Tampa Bay actually stepped their game up big time. If Atlanta steps their game up, I think they do have a chance to win, because Atlanta is still a very talented team, but Atlanta has no pass rush whatsoever, and their defense has really been struggling. So that's why I like Seattle in this game to beat Atlanta. Okay, the Detroit Lions against the Chicago Bears. Now, this is a three-way tie in the NFC North for first place. All teams are 5-3. Detroit and Chicago, but for some reason Detroit never seems to do well on the road in these places. They just don't seem to click against their division opponents on the road, unless they're in Minnesota, because Minnesota stinks. But Chicago at home, I think I think that the Detroit, with the way they've been playing as of late, they would win this game, but I just don't like the way that they play on the road against their division opponents. So I like Chicago in this game, even with the backup quarterback. And Ndamukong Suh was quoted saying today he hopes he faces Jay Cutler. And no, it's not for that reason. I know all you people think that probably it's because he wants to lay a cheap shot on him. No, he wants to beat the Bears at their best when they have their best players. Jay Cutler is the best quarterback on the Bears, so that's why he wants to face Cutler. There's no... Cutler probably is not going to play it, but Josh McCown has filled in admirably for Jay Cutler in his current situation. So I don't see Detroit's defense really doing a lot to I don't really see Detroit's defense doing a lot to get in McCown's head, because he's played very well for his role. So I like Chicago at home against Detroit in a very, very tight game now. Philadelphia at Green Bay. Now, if you had told me this game 1 week ago at Lambeau Field, I would have said this would have been a blowout. But Aaron Rodgers is going to miss some time. So I am going to pick a little bit of an upset here. I don't trust Seneca Wallace in the least running the Packers offense. I'm picking the Philadelphia Eagles in this game. With the way Nick Foles played against Oakland last year, I think moving forward the Eagles have to name Foles their starter. He has been their best quarterback this year. Between him, Matt Barkley, and Michael Vick, it's not even a contest who is better, the best, of the three. Right, it's not even a contest really who the best three are. Foles has absolutely played the best. He played well against the Giants. He played well against the Buccaneers, and he played fantastic last week. Threw 7 touchdown passes, tying an NFL record. So the fact that Chip Kelly hasn't named Nick Foles his starting quarterback for the rest of the season yet, Chip Kelly, I still don't think he should have gotten a job in the NFL. And answers like that still make me believe you still don't deserve a job in the NFL. So yeah, that does that. But if Foles can keep at it, I like Philadelphia in this game. I really do. Green Bay is only 1-point favorite. The thing that they got going for them, I think, is that the game is at Lambeau Field. That's about it. I think Philadelphia, though, has the advantage at quarterback. I don't trust Seneca Wallace. I think that they're a very injured team. There's no guarantee that James Jones will be playing this week for Green Bay. And yeah, like I said, they're a very injured team. Philadelphia in that game. Okay, Sunday, Jacksonville at Tennessee. Jacksonville, I don't really talk about Jacksonville too much because they are just the worst team in the NFL. Not even a question. They are god-awful. Tennessee, they beat their old coach, Jeff Fisher, in St. Louis last week. That was a nice win. Jake Locker, it's sad to see that he's kind of struggling a little bit. He was on fire until he got injured in the game against the Jets. But Jacksonville, I think Jacksonville has a legitimate chance of going 0-16. I'm probably never going to pick them to win a game until they actually do win a game. So I think they're just a god-awful team. Tennessee has kind of exceeded expectations a little bit. They are 4-4. People didn't think that they'd be 500 right now at this point, but they're a much better team than Jacksonville. So with that, I like Tennessee comfortably over Jacksonville on Sunday in Nashville. So okay, now Indianapolis at home against St. Louis. Indianapolis had a bit of a scare in Houston last week. Granted, Houston was up 24-6, but then Gary Kubiak, obviously, the Gary Kubiak incident, kind of let the Texans down a little bit. They really didn't play with a lot of emotion, it seemed like, in the second half. And Andrew Luck led a comeback on the Colts. Took the Colts on the comeback trail, and he won. Andrew Luck is amazing in the fourth quarter. He might be the best fourth quarter quarterback in football. Right now, dead serious. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, you can see the straight face I have. Andrew Luck is that good when the game is on the line or in close games. I think that right now St. Louis crushed Houston in Houston when they did play. Matt Schaub was playing quarterback for them at the time, and Indianapolis barely held on, barely beat Houston, excuse me. But I don't really see St. Louis doing too much against Indianapolis. I mean, St. Louis is a great pass rush. They may have the best defensive line in football. They're very talented, but as long as Kellen Clemens is playing quarterback for St. Louis, I can't pick them to beat a team like the Colts, who have played great football as of late. You know, they got a win against Denver. They got wins against Seattle and San Francisco. I can't really pick a team like St. Louis to knock off Indianapolis at home. So that's why I'm picking Indianapolis over St. Louis. I think St. Louis will give them the game because they do rush the quarterback well, but as long as they have Kellen Clemens, I mean, unless they play a significantly worse team, you're not going to hear me really picking St. Louis a lot because he does not look good whatsoever from what I've seen of him. That Monday night game, he was dreadful against Seattle. So Indianapolis comfortably over St. Louis. Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Good news for Buffalo. E.J. Manuel is coming back, and he will be in uniform for the game against Pittsburgh. The game is in Pittsburgh now. Buffalo, they're a very tough team at home. This game is in Pittsburgh, however. Pittsburgh, they have only 2 wins this year against the Jets and the rival Ravens. I'm going to pick Pittsburgh this week, though. They had New England, it seemed. They played New England very tough for about 3.5 quarters. Then New England pulled away and dominated. They put up 55 points. E.J. Manuel is not Tom Brady. Tom Brady had his best game of the season. So, that Sunday. But I think Pittsburgh, when just pushing them sub, I think they're still the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can never take them for granted, no matter what their record is. They are still one. They still do have some very good players. In this game, though, I think E.J. Manuel's first game back. I think he might struggle. He's missed it a little over a month. I think he might struggle. I think Pittsburgh has something to play for because I think that a Mike Tomlin defense does not give up 55 points. And I think they're going to play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And at home, they're still not an easy team to play at home. So I like Pittsburgh over Buffalo. Okay, Cincinnati at Baltimore. Now, Cincinnati, they were looking so good going into the Thursday night game against Miami, and then they really played bad on Thursday night in Miami. They lost on a safety very poorly, very, very bad, not good. Andy Dalton had his worst game of the season. Giovanni Bernard helped me in fantasy-wise, and he's my pick to win Rookie of the Year, Giovanni Bernard, but I right now just... I think that the Baltimore is just so out of sync right now. I think that they're having a really bad Super Bowl hangover. I felt horrible last year as a New York Giants fan when the Giants didn't make the playoffs after winning the Super Bowl the year before, but Baltimore seems to be on that pace and repeating it. So I think they've had a really bad Super Bowl hangover. I think that this is going to be a great game. I really do. Joe Flacco, though, has not had a good year. I think Andy Dalton is going to try and play a little, like I said about Pittsburgh, maybe play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he had a poor game in Miami. Cincinnati, and only 2 weeks removed from dismantling the Jets at home, 49-9. I think this is going to be a close game, but I think Cincinnati pulls it out. I think Cincinnati is playing better than Baltimore. Baltimore, it just seems so out of sync from last year. Ray Rice, as much as it kills me to say this, Ray Rice is not the same player that he's been throughout his career. They don't have a legitimate number 2 receiver. Marlon Brown or Jacoby Jones are not real number 2 receivers. Jacoby Jones has always been more of a return specialist / slot receiver, so that's why I like Cincinnati. More balance on offense and defense. Cincinnati over Baltimore. All right, and to round up the 1 o'clock games, my New York Giants at home against the Oakland Raiders. Jet lag. That's why the Giants win. I'm kidding. But I actually think the Giants will pull this one out. The Raiders are coming off maybe the worst defensive performance of the season when you allow 7 touchdowns to one man. I know the Ravens did in week 1, but Oakland did. That was to Peyton Manning. Oakland did this to Nick Foles, who's not Peyton Manning, so... I think my New York Giants, they're getting Andre Brown back. That was that's a nice bolt for the Giants. I'm gonna say right now, the Giants, they got a real bad break last week on the bye week. All 3 NFC East teams decided to actually win, so they got a real bad break. If they really want serious about making the playoffs, this is a game against the Oakland Raiders at home that you cannot lose. It's that simple. You lose to Oakland, that's just a no can do. Can't do it. If you do it, you really can kiss your season goodbye because they are still 2.5 games back. They have to get real hot in order to win this division, though, because Dallas still has a winning record. Philadelphia is a game away from being 500, and Washington's played very well of late. So, the Giants, if they're serious about making the playoffs, they got to win, and they got to win big in this game. I think they are going to pull it out. I don't think Darren McFadden is playing this Sunday. That's not official, and Terrell Pryor is banged up. Nobody knows if he's playing yet. If Terrell Pryor doesn't play, I absolutely think the Giants are going to win because the Oakland Raiders quarterback right now then would be Matt McGloin, who was at Penn State last year. Matt McGloin, whenever I saw him play, could not throw the ball more than 20 yards. So that's why I would pick the Giants. If Pryor plays, I like this to be a really close game. If Terrell Pryor does not play, then I like the Giants to win this one pretty comfortably in the Meadowlands, actually. I actually haven't seen the Raiders ever really play on live television unless they play the Jets, so I'm really excited to actually watch us play against the Raiders, so should be a fun game. And the Giants are finally doing something that I've wanted them to do for a while. They were wearing white pants instead of those horrible gray ones. I always thought that the Giants would have great uniforms had they gotten rid of the gray pants, but they still wear them. I can't wait to see how these white pants look on the Giants. I think it'll really make the uniforms look a lot better. That's just my opinion, though. So I do like the Giants over Oakland. Blow if Terrell Pryor doesn't play, but I like it. I like them in a very, very tight game. Maybe he'll have a vintage Eli Manning performance where it's a close game and then he pulls his team to a victory in the last 2 minutes. But that's only if Terrell Pryor plays. That's what it's all hinging on for me. Either way, I do like the Giants to win. Okay, now the 4 o'clock games. Moving on. Houston and Arizona. Excuse me. Houston looked very rejuvenated under Case Keenum. That was when Gary Kubiak was on the sideline, though, and Gary Kubiak will not be on the sideline this week as he recovers. I don't know what he was, but I think it was like a precaution. They said this is like a pre-thing, which could lead to a stroke or something like that, so it's very serious for Gary Kubiak right now. I do like Arizona in this game, though. I really wish I could say I know a lot about Arizona, but they're, of all the teams in the NFL, the 32 teams, I don't think I've seen one moment of them on television this year. Arizona, yeah, maybe the one game I did, they looked really bad against Seattle. So, but I think without Gary Kubiak, that's not a good thing for Houston. Arizona, I do know that they are somewhat solid defensively. So, Carson Palmer not having a great year, not having a very good year at all, but I don't know if Case Keenum's going to do it again because now that Arizona is going to prepare for them, and they do have a great coach in Bruce Arians, Arizona. So, and they're at home. So, just with that, that's why I like Arizona in that game. Okay, now this game that I'm about to talk about is a very underrated game in terms of performance. of the two teams. The San Francisco 49ers and Carolina Panthers. Both teams are playing excellent football right now. The Carolina Panthers are playing very great defensively. This is a huge game for Carolina. If I think Carolina has a very good chance of making the playoffs. This game is at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. San Francisco has not lost since week 3, I believe. So they're playing very good football right now as of late too. So I'd like to really, I would. A part of me thinks that my gut feeling wants to say San Francisco, but just something is telling me that I think Carolina is going to pull it out against San Francisco at Candlestick Park. I think the Carolinas get the speed on defense to keep up with Kaepernick. I think Luke Kuechly is the best middle linebacker in football as of right now. So I think that they can do a lot to stop the running game. The question is, if Kaepernick does have a game like he did Week 1 against Green Bay, then maybe they can beat Carolina. Cause I wasn't too blown away with Carolina's secondary when I see them, but they seem good enough because Anquan Boldin really hasn't had a big game since Week 1. But on the other side, though, I think San Francisco is the one defense that them and Seattle maybe can do damage to Cam Newton, who has played phenomenal football lately, Cam Newton. But something about me just thinks Carolina's clicking right now, and they're serious playoff contenders right now. And I think Carolina may be in for the upset. I'm dead serious. So I'm picking Carolina in a great football game in San Francisco on Sunday. Okay, now the Denver Broncos versus the San Diego Chargers to round out the 4 o'clock games. I'm picking Denver in this game. However, though, this game is in San Diego, and Philip Rivers hates the Broncos, and he's had a quite very Philip Rivers. So, Philip Rivers, this is going to be a very tight game, I think. I think it's going to be high scoring. I'm not impressed with both defenses. They're both pass-heavy teams, these two teams. I think this is going to be a very tight game, but I think in the end you have to, even though Denver doesn't have, like Houston doesn't, Denver doesn't have John Fox, Jack Del Rio can do the job. Jack Del Rio was a good head coach in Jacksonville for 8 years, where it's not easy to be a good head coach, as the last 2 head coaches have shown lately in Jacksonville. That's not an easy place to coach. Jack Del Rio is a fine head coach. They'll be fine, I think. It's going to be maybe a little harder for him to run the defense and run the team now, but I think as long as you have number 18 under center, that you're going to be fine no matter what. Denver in a high-scoring game. Dallas at New Orleans Sunday night. Now Dallas, sometimes I want to believe that Dallas is a good team. I really do. But New Orleans didn't look good against the Jets at all. That was in New York, though. This game is in the Superdome. Dallas didn't look good against Minnesota. Minnesota is a terrible football team right now. I'm picking New Orleans in this one. It's at the Superdome, where it's not easy to play. Let's be real here. Not easy place to play. I think that the fans will get to Dallas eventually. Dallas always seems to be in tight games with these very good football teams. So I think it's going to be a good game, but I think in the Super Bowl in New Orleans, Drew Brees will just be too much for that Cowboys secondary and the assortment of weapons that the Saints have. Especially if Darren Sproles plays. So New Orleans over Dallas, and Monday night Miami against Tampa Bay, two of the Florida teams. Granted, what's going on in Miami now, this whole situation, it's not good. It's not a good situation right now. Not a good look for the team, but Tampa Bay played very well against Seattle, and they took them to overtime. They were up 21-0, and then they blew a lead. I think that if Greg Schiano was not the head coach of Tampa Bay, that Tampa Bay actually would have pulled that game out, but I can't see Tampa Bay beating Miami right now. Miami's coming off a really good win against Cincinnati. Maybe if this situation is not in their heads, then I'd maybe like Tampa Bay, but I just think as long as Greg Schiano's coaching there, the Tampa Bay's not going to go all out for him, honestly. They don't seem to have his back. He doesn't seem to have their back. Schiano won't be there much longer. I think this is the game that if they do lose, Schiano finally does get fired, and as he should. And, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But they're both in bad situations right now, these two teams, but Miami's the better football team, so I like Miami over Tampa Bay on Monday night. All right, I'll wrap it up there with my NFL predictions. We'll take a very short break, and I'll be right back after. Thank you all for tuning in. Be right back after this.
Hi, this is Victor Cruz, Super Bowl champion New York Giants, and I got to get my ICTV.
I'm gonna fight 'em all. A seven-nation army couldn't hold me